I'm going to be honest with you. Every time I post a demo of Claude Code, building an app in minutes, automating something that used to take days, I get the same message. Different people, different words, but the same question underneath. So what is left for us all to do? Us, meaning the people who actually learned how to do things, the professionals, the ones who spent years building expertise that suddenly looks like it can now just simply fit into a prompt. And listen, I totally get it. And if I can be transparent with you, sometimes I feel that too. When I see what these tools can do now, part of me wonders, what really is left for humans to do? But the truth is, the game has changed. The role that we play is evolving, and where humans add value is changing. Here's what I've realized. AI can write the code, it can generate the report, it can build the workflow, but it can't own the outcome. It can't sit in the meeting next quarter and defend the decision. It can't know what not to say to your board. It can't carry the risk. That is still you. That is judgment. That is ownership, and that is not going anywhere. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like and why your expertise matters more now and not less. Let me show you what I mean. Let's get started. All right, so here is our game plan. So first, I'm going to show you what has actually shifted, because the old model of engineers building and everyone else waits, that is done, that is gone. And what's replaced it changes who actually matters in this workflow, in this environment. Then we're going to actually be fair about what AI actually does well and how the speed of innovation right now is dizzying. But then, and this is the main event, I'm going to build something live in Claude Code, a real app, and I'm going to show you exactly where it looks perfect and where it could get you in trouble. Let's get into it. Now, if you don't know me, I'm Sunny. I'm a serial founder now on my 4th startup. Also, I'm a former senior engineer at Bloomberg and Shopify, and currently an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School, where I teach tech. Listen, I've been building in tech for over 15 years, well before AI. And my goal for this video, and really all my videos, is to help you make sense of all the things that are happening within the tech landscape right now, and to make these tools more accessible to everyone. Let's get started with our first step. All right, so let me paint you a picture. In the old world, and by old, by the way, I mean like 2 years ago, value was largely all about execution. Could you write the code? Could you ship the feature? Could you get it out the door? Engineers, in some respects, were the gatekeepers. If you had an idea, you needed to convince someone technical to build it, or you needed to learn to code yourself, or you hired someone. And then you waited weeks, sometimes months, to see if your idea even worked. The feedback loop was brutal. Now, everything has flipped. Execution is essentially abundant. Feedback is instant. You can go from idea to working prototype literally in an afternoon. But here's the thing that nobody is saying out loud. When execution is virtually free, mistakes get cheaper, but consequences do not. Let me say that again, because I think it's a really important point. Mistakes get cheaper. You can rebuild fast. You can iterate, whatever. But consequences, the real world impact of a business decision, of a bad decision, that stayed exactly the same. If you ship a report with the wrong framing, that still costs you. If you tell your superiors the wrong story, that still costs you. If you set expectations you cannot meet, that still costs you. The technology has changed, but the stakes have not. This is probably a good time to talk about what I call the judgment premium. Listen, I've been in this industry long enough to watch multiple hype cycles, and here is what I've noticed. Every time a new technology makes execution easier, the premium shifts upstream. When spreadsheets automated calculations, we didn't fire all the accountants. We started paying more for people who could analyze. And now that AI can build apps, we're going to be paying more people for their ability to decide. Judgment is now the bottleneck. And if you've spent your career making judgment calls, congratulations, you just became more valuable. So as I mentioned earlier, the speed of innovation right now is insanely fast. So let's be clear on what AI can do really well, at least really well at the time of this recording. Pattern completion, synthesis, speed, consistency, these are all really valuable capabilities. But here's what AI is not good at: context and consequences. AI doesn't know that your CFO and VP of sales haven't actually spoken since the reorg. It doesn't know what happened in last quarter's board meeting. You know, the stuff that actually shapes decisions, that actually lives in relationships and institutional memory. And ownership. When something goes wrong, someone has to answer for it. The person has a name, a career, and skin in the game. AI does not. Listen, AI is a tool, a fast, impressive, confident tool, but tools do not make decisions. You do. All right, let's actually see this in practice by actually building something in Claude Code. So here's a scenario. I'm a finance person. The end of the quarter just happened, and I have to take Q4 revenue and explain the nature of the revenue to the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ask Claude Code to build me a tool. We'll call it the Revenue Explainer. So I've already have Claude Code loaded up here. I'm going to go ahead and select my folder. It's going to be just an empty folder called Rev Explainer. And I'm going to paste in this prompt. Let's read it together. Build me a Revenue Explainer app. The app should let me upload a CSV of Q4 sales data. It should have these columns, and I want it to calculate total revenue, and more importantly, generate a 2 to 3 paragraph board-ready narrative explaining the nature of the revenue. Keep the UI clean and simple. So we're actually just going to jump to act in this case. If we were really doing the real thing, I would suggest doing plan, but for demonstration purposes and just to get our hands dirty with the product, we'll go straight to act. Okay, great. So it's done. Let's actually go ahead and kick off the server. In order to do this, I'm going to open up this index.html file and actually see what the product looks like. Okay, so here is what our interface looks like. This is a Q4 revenue summary tool. Of course, we could broaden this to any quarter. And what this is going to do, it's going to take in a CSV of sales information and then generate a narrative and key parts, key metrics around the revenue that we can potentially share with our board. Now, before we actually do it, I do want to show you the sample data of revenue that we're going to be using. This is a little bit of a contrived example, simplistic rather, but very important to show you. So this is basically the revenue data that we are going to be uploading. This has the customer name, the contract value, the date that it closed. You'll see that they made $647,000 this quarter. But also something to note, something that kind of jumps out as an analyst, is the fact that a good chunk of the revenue is coming from this specific deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to upload this here and get a narrative, get some key metrics that we can then submit to the board. Now, you might be wondering, why build a tool like this in anyway? You could just upload that CSV file directly to ChatGPT or Claude, and you certainly could do that. But I want you to think of what we just built here as kind of like phase one of the tool. Maybe the ultimate version of this is one that plugs into QuickBooks or NetSuite or whatever revenue or accounting system that you use, and it does it automatically. Maybe it will automatically send you a draft on a regular basis. The idea here is that this version is just the first version, and while there might be not as much value as building the tool as compared to just using ChatGPT or Claude, if we build in those additional automations, which we would not be able to do with Claude or ChatGPT, then it just makes the value and efficiency so much more potent. So I'll just leave you with that. All right, so let's actually go ahead and upload our Q4 revenue data and see what we get. Cool. So what it did is it took all that information and it put together a narrative. It correctly calculated the amount of revenue, total number of deals, the average deal size, also puts together a executive summary. So we delivered Q4 performance with $647,000 in total revenue across 10 closed deals. Average deal size is this. New deals led our Q4 results, generating this much from 10 transactions. They correctly mentioned the largest single deal closed, underscoring our ability to compete effectively in the market. The pipeline strength and deal velocity we demonstrate provide a solid foundation. And our diversified customer base reduces concentration risk while expanding our market footprint. So that's a little suspect. So far, this looks good in the sense that it's highlighting the 485K deal, but let's double click on this. Look at how it framed it, underscoring our ability to compete effectively. And then 2 sentences later, it has the audacity to say diversified customer base reduces concentration risk. Like, this one deal is 3/4 of our revenue. That is not diversified. That is literally the opposite of diversified. So in this case, the AI saw the number. It didn't really understand what it means. It pattern matched to big deal, so therefore good, multiple customers, therefore diversified, without doing the actual math, without having the judgment of what diversified actually means. If I took this to a board, I would lose credibility almost instantly. And that's the gap. The AI wrote something that sounds right, but I'm the one who has to be right. Claude generated the draft, but my name actually goes on the report. And this is the insight I want you to take from this example. You know, the AI told me what happened. It didn't tell me what it means, the significance behind it. Sure, revenue was strong. We closed a big deal. That is what happened. That's accurate. But what is the significance of these numbers? What does it mean under the hood? The truth is, we got lucky with one whale. Shouldn't expect that to repeat. And that's really what it means. And that requires judgment. The AI can do the first part, but you have to do the second part, because you're not just generating reports. You're the one sitting in the room next quarter explaining yourself. And more importantly, you're the one who has the deeper insight and context as to what would be important to call out or how to frame certain things given the dynamics of the board. That is the job right now, not the output, the ownership. Now, let me zoom out a bit, because this isn't just about finance. The pattern, I see this pattern showing up everywhere. AI handles the output, but you handle accountability. AI handles the patterns, but you handle the exceptions. AI handles the speed, but you handle the consequences. Here's what I want you to understand. AI doesn't replace knowledge workers. It finally made their real job visible. For years, knowledge workers were stuck doing execution work that buried their actual value, building the model, formatting the slides, writing the first draft. Now that a big chunk of that execution is handled, what's left is the stuff that actually matters. Deciding what's acceptable, owning the outcome, defending the choice. That was really always the job, but it was just hidden under a ton of bureaucracy and a ton of busy work. So where does a tool like Claude Code actually fit into this broader picture? Here's how I want you to think about it. Claude Code is an amplifier, a collaborator, a junior analyst with infinite stamina. It can generate, it can synthesize, it can iterate way faster than you can even type. But Claude Code is not the owner. It's not the decision maker. It's not the one defending the work in next quarter's board meeting. If you use it well, it handles the execution so you can focus on the judgment. If you use it badly, if you just take the output and ship it without thinking, you're still on the hook, but now you shipped something you don't fully understand. And this brings me to maybe the most important point I'm going to make in this video. If you're a professional watching this, someone in product or finance or ops, you actually don't need to learn to code on a deeper level. That is not the skill you need. What you need is actually the ability to direct systems, to know what you're asking for, to evaluate what came back is acceptable, to know when to trust and know when to verify. This is about becoming intentional, not necessarily deeply technical. The people who thrive are the ones who can actually articulate what they need, evaluate what they get, and of course, own the consequences. That is a professional skill. You probably already have it. You just probably haven't applied it to AI yet. All right, so we're nearing the end of this video, so let's wrap this up. I'll leave you with this. If you've spent your career making judgment calls, like maybe evaluating risk, making trade-offs, setting expectations, defending decisions to people who matter, this moment is not a threat. It's actually leverage. For years, you were probably bottlenecked by execution. You had to wait for someone to build the thing before you could evaluate the thing. Now, you can evaluate in real time. You can iterate in real time. You can apply your judgment faster and more frequently than ever before. That doesn't make your expertise less valuable. It actually makes it more applicable. You don't need to master code in a deep way. You just need to learn to direct systems. And honestly, you're probably closer than you think. So here's what I want you to do. Think about one decision you make regularly in your work. Something where your judgment actually matters. Something where if you got it wrong, there would be consequences. And I want you to ask yourself, what would it look like to use AI as a collaborator in that decision? Not to replace your judgment, but to actually accelerate it. Drop it in the comments or tag me. I'm genuinely curious what you all are working on. If you've stuck around till the end of this video, I appreciate you. I will see you on the next video.